one, two, three, four people to help us ask a question. But again, we will give you 15 or 20 minutes in the last session of this session that you can ask questions. But again, we're not prohibiting you to ask questions regarding the participant in any status. Allow me to introduce the first one on my right-hand side, Kun Nop. I call you just shortly, in short, Kun Nop, from TDRI Group, one of the top international law firm in Thailand and in the world perhaps. They would love to be like we want to know that level. Yes, thank you. We wish you, we give you blessing. And second, on my left-hand side, Ajahn Dr. Nati. May I skip your surname, please, because I'm not wearing my reading glasses and I simply cannot say anything. Dr. Nati is one of our lecturers at ICDI, and he also the director of the company, public company you call Vitaya. And close to my right-hand side, Dr. Pluk, he's a director of Energy Research Center at CMU. And closest to me on my right-hand side is Dr. Pichiyalak. She also vice dean and lecturer at ICDI. So now I have four people to help me asking. So I will sit back and the question will come freely. If any one of you want to ask Dr. Green any question at all regarding her business, her power ledger, please do so. Start from who?
Oh. Sorry. May I be the first one to ask because I'm very interested in your talk. Actually, I plan to ask you about your investment in Thailand, but you already showed that. I'd like to know the future about the investment in Thailand, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
So we are working with BCPG on a few other potential projects. There's another potential project in Bangkok which has got approximately 4 megawatts of installed capacity of solar. And then we're working on potentially being involved in the 12 megawatt installation that is being that is under construction here at Chiang Mai University. And so they're two more near-term projects that we're looking at with BCPG, and we're very excited, particularly here in Chiang Mai, because it's part of a smart cities project, and it's really about realising the full potential of digital energy and a distributed low cost and low carbon energy. And I think, with the challenges that exist in air quality and having these demonstration projects, I think are really important for people to take it from, oh, this is, some pie in the sky idea to, oh, this is actually, a real thing. So there are a couple of projects in the pipeline, and I think that over the next 5 years, BCPG have aspirations to install 200 megawatts more solar, and that's a combination of commercial and industrial scale and also residential as a part of their partnership with the PA via TDRI, and I think these are very exciting projects, and we hope to have a big and long future in Thailand.
Thank you very much for your insightful answer. May I ask a little bit more? How can we, on behalf of Chiang Mai University, how can we prepare our students for this kind of business?
Well, I was talking to your associate dean earlier, and I really like the fact that it's about giving students an in-depth view of the various skills that they need to actually be entrepreneurial. So it's a combination of legal skills and innovation, technology, commercial skills. And I think they're so essential. It's not till you try and start up a business that you realise, if you don't have the correct legal documents from the get-go, that's going to bite you later. And so I think preparing, students for, not necessarily, that they know everything, but they have enough of an understanding of what they need to do and who to call upon, so that they're not missing things and finding that they've made irreparable mistake down the track. You know, it's not till you go to a venture capitalist and then they suddenly look at your shareholder agreement, or, you know, what's the documentation that shows you own your intellectual property, that you suddenly realise that the kind of issues. And so I think it's fantastic that you're actually creating the training that's actually going to skill people in Thailand to be able to set up new enterprise, because this is going to immunise the economy longer term in, you know, being competitive, because we're moving from, you know, traditional industries into service and technology-based industries, and there is a disruption happening, and the more skills that the workplace can have, the better, you know, the economy and the standard of living will be for Thailand.
So very much. I can't stop reading from ear to ear, because this is such an emphasis on our philosophy at ICDI. Now we have, from a legal point of view, do you have anything? Because you're such sitting far away.
Okay, so I'll go easy. So I mean, it's quite interesting. I thought I'll be on these panel discussions and then people were asking me a lot of questions, free legal questions, but it's good. I'm going to ask the question then. So actually your business model is very, very exciting, and I really want that to happen here in Thailand as well. But the problem is that when I look into the model that you mentioned, right, it seems a bit blurred to me, whether or not you are just a platform provider that you match, like a matchmaker, or you are also the, I don't know, the helper, or like the people who help the peer, the first peer, people who wants to be the generator. I'm just quite confused.
So our technology enables others to create marketplaces, so they can spin off their own marketplace using our platform. And we've already got 12 marketplaces around the world that are being trialled. So it's really a platform that enables the transactions within a distributed energy marketplace. And so they're what we call application hosts on our platform, and so they are effectively being the market maker, and our technology enables them to do that.
So from the regulatory point of view, you're like a service provider, but you're not trader of energy.
Correct. We're a technology company, and our technology can be used by market makers to establish these marketplaces. And depending on the regulatory setting, you know, they're able to operate in a different fashion. So if it's behind the meter or in a microgrid, then there's less regulation to conform with. Where if it's across the grid trading, then there's either a requirement for regulation that can enable that, or a sandbox environment that can facilitate that. So I think in different, I know for example in Thailand there's an intention to create those regulations, and the sandboxes that exist right now allow quite a lot of scale that can better inform the rules, so that, you know, they understand exactly what they should look like.
So from the regulatory point of view, in terms of challenges or hurdles for Thailand, do you have any views about that?
To be honest, Thailand I think is leapfrogging, you know, faster than you know, some high-income OECD countries and many other emerging economies. I feel like their appetite to you know, to embrace innovation is enormous, and of course we would like it to happen today, but I think that Thailand is really a demonstration country for what the energy system of tomorrow will look like.
So just so you know, and then I'll stop asking. Actually, when she talks about regulatory sandbox, in Thailand we have 3 regulatory sandboxes. So we have one from Bank of Thailand, another from SEC, and the very last one from the insurance regulator. So that is really show how the regulator's policy, or how they want to promote the tech company or promote the technologies to help making the financial business being more efficient. So I think it will be a very good opportunity for us to have your type of technology business to come into Thailand.
Thank you.
Next question or next observation should go to you, because you're from an energy person.
Yes, thank you. Actually, I'm not going to try to bring Dr. Green on stage, but we have been working together already on the so-called CMU Smart City Clean Energy project, which Dr. Green already mentioned, that we are going to install at least 8 megawatts of PVs and up to 12 megawatts if possible. And the construction is starting actually now. Without power ledger or any kind of transaction transparency equipment, so we can never know where the energy goes. When you have such a big city, then this is quite a big challenge for us. And especially when you install at a capacity so close to your consumption rate, and you can expect some, what we call hiccup, but some obstacle, which I believe the digital platform can definitely occur us, take up those challenges. So we can comment more of what you are going to do with us on the trading schemes, transaction schemes, and for our CMU project. That would be, I think, a good thing to share with the audience.
Sure. So at the moment, today actually there's a site visit going across the campus with various contractors to look at the buildings and see what's the kind of sequence of events to install rooftop solar. And I think by the end of this year, the intention is to have 5 megawatts installed. So that's quite a lot of electricity. To put that into context, about 1 megawatt would provide enough energy for 250 homes. So it's about 1,000 homes worth of electricity that's being installed. And I was fortunate enough to have dinner with the director last night and to understand a little bit more about the challenges on campus. But I think energy efficiency is a big part of this. So there's 5,000 air conditioners that are very old and energy inefficient. And so BCPG, in concert with the university, are looking at upgrading those systems and sharing the benefits associated with the energy savings to pay back the investment in the assets and overall deliver the same level of air quality, air comfort in the, inside the buildings, but use less electricity. In terms of our platform, it's really about looking at how much electricity is being generated by particular generation assets, so rooftop solar, and then within the buildings, how much is being consumed and how much is being consumed at different times of the day. And I think that with this data, you'll start to understand if there are problems in terms of inefficient air conditioning units or other plant or equipment, or if there is any leakage or actual problems with the actual physical network in delivering electricity, any losses. So I think you'll start to see that at the very basic level. But then I think that the bigger potential is around creating an automated system for measuring verification and reporting to receive carbon credits and for the trading of those credits. And then there's also the potential for electric vehicle charging and the measurement associated with that. And that each of the different faculties are appropriately charged for the amount of consumption, and it's not all just being absorbed by the head office of the university. And then you can create internal competition and understanding of how energy efficient is one area versus another. So the data can really start to provide these kinds of insights, and targets can be set for improving performance. And then overall, the whole data set can be used to provide research as well. And that's research based on the energy, but also the potential for the blockchain to facilitate a highly efficient, low cost and low carbon energy market. So I think from a research perspective, this data platform will provide very rich insights too. So, and then the final area is actually around the assets themselves. It's possible to use that as a demonstration project to fractionalise those assets, tokenise them and sell them. So I think that there are many different facets of this project that we really need to flesh out and use it to the best potential possible.
Yes, and for the audience, if you'd like to see more of the projects, the CMU is very open. And you can call us a playground, a learning center, a demonstration site, whatever you want, but you're very welcome to visit us. And we hope that from consumer changing to prosumer is a big concept, especially here at CMU, and we like to prepare students to have such a skill, such a knowledge to be out there and live. So I'm running out of questions because we've been working together for a long time. So thank you, Dr. Green.
Thank you.
There is one gentleman sitting and beaming there. So over to you, Dr. Nativ.
Okay. Well, you might heard that we have peer-to-peer lending, but now we have peer-to-peer energy trading, which is a very interesting concept. So in terms of business, it sounds like a good concept that small people can access to the resources, right? But if anyone want to join in this business, for example, like a SME, small medium enterprise want to join the business, is there any opportunity for them, or this is just a big company game only?
I think there's enormous opportunity for the SMEs to be buyers of electricity. So using our platform, I think BCPG are aggregating load from various different generation sites that have surplus capacity, and then they can sell those using our platform onto smaller consumers. And the potential for them is to be able to get much cheaper electricity. And so if you're interested in looking at alternative ways of procuring electricity, then I think definitely get in contact with BCPG or myself, and and we can look at that. And I think that the more we can assemble the market around these and create these demonstration projects, the faster we'll get to scale.
Okay, thank you.
I was told that the time is up for us on stage. You may feel it. No, don't go anywhere yet. You just stay there. I know that you cannot run fast because of that. Yeah. So we keep her on stage. Now, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time for you to raise questions. Address yourself and go to the point. And I know that it's so excitement for us to know about blockchain and energy, solar rooftop. But please go to the point of question and raise your hand if you want to ask the question. And while people will reach you. Thai or in English, we have translator. Any questions? Yes, over there.
ขออยากถามภาษาไทยนะครับอยากสอบถามว่า
ใครคะ Who are you Where are you from
I come from
ภาษาไทยก็ได้
ไทยก็ได้ครับเนาะมาจากคณะวิศวกรรมศาสตร์ครับของมหาวิทยาลัยเชียงใหม่นะครับเป็นนักเรียนนะครับก็อยากสอบถามเกี่ยวกับการซื้อขายไฟภายใต้แพลตฟอร์มของPoapongsakornนะครับเนาะอยากทราบว่าสมมติว่าผมจะอยู่คณะวิศวกรรมศาสตร์เนาะจะซื้อไฟจากคณะบริหารนะครับเนาะการซื้อขายไฟนะครับจะมีการคิดไฟฟ้าโดยการส่งผ่านตกลงจำหน่ายของการไฟฟ้าหรือว่าส่งผ่านโรงจำหน่ายของ Poapongsakorn เองครับ
The question คำถามให้ดร. Jemma Green ใช่ไหมคะ Yes Did you translate it?
I'm sorry, I don't
Okay, I can translate.
Thank you.
So the question is for the CMU Smart City trading platform. Is trading going to be on the CMU grid or through Power Ledger? But I think we can.
Well, I think that in terms of the university project, because there's one asset owner, and there's one user, it may just be that everyone pays by consumption, but the university may decide to allocate a certain amount of electricity to each of the faculties. And then, if they don't consume their allocation, they can actually trade that and offset their bills. And I think this is an exciting proposition because then you can encourage them to behave in the right way. And you can ratchet up the value of the energy over time so that they're financially incentivized to behave in the right way. And I think that there's going to be research around how gamification and creation of marketplaces can generate the right market consumer behaviour. So I think that it really depends on what the overall objective is and how the university would like to set up the scheme overall and the trading rules that they would like to establish.
I think there's one thing that came from the question from the audience as well, that he was wondering whether or not having this technology or the peer-to-peer platform that is a matchmaker, would that eventually eliminate the intermediary player who is the electricity authority?
I doubt it, but I think that it will create a much more efficient system. So at the moment, for example, the delivery of electricity in the peak is the exclusive domain of big utilities. But if you can actually create a bona fide marketplace and economically incentivise people to supply in the peak, we all know supply and demand economics. If you add more supply, you'll drive out costs. And I think as we move towards a more cost-reflective market and a more deregulated market, then the blockchain can facilitate low-cost and low-carbon electricity. But I think that unlike perhaps Uber, there is a role for this regulator that is going to provide a light touch to ensure that the right physical outcome is achieved.
Yes, and I believe that this is a trial case in Chiang Mai University. Perhaps soon we will be able to do outside Chiang Mai University. And I just heard that recently the Ministry of Energy that allow individuals and communities to apply for permission from the Ministry of Energy, so we can have solar rooftop and we can do trading. If you have surplus of energy consumption, you can trade back to the ministry with a price of 1.68 baht per unit. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. That was a
That's true, which is too small.
True, but too small, right? How can we make it bigger? The price.
Well, I think that's a fixed price that's being offered, but you could actually allow other buyers to participate and bid into that market. And then there would be a spread on the price depending on how many buyers there were and the time of day. And I think a feed-in tariff or a fixed price is a perfectly good system, but I think there is a better system that could be achieved in creating a proper marketplace.
This is a question to Dr. Jemma. Imagine you go back to the future and you are a high school student planning to go to the university. What subjects are you going to study in the university and why?
Well, I've got a 3.5-year-old daughter and a 10-month-old baby boy, and I go to quite a lot of hackathons and also coding for girls. So there's different web girls and coding to teach women about being a computer programmer. But I think the STEM science subjects are so important. And I was talking with Nat from BCPG last night, and my background is investment banking, and I spent my 20s in an office modelling things in Excel, commercial models and financial models, and I didn't really like it at the time. But I use those skills every day now, and I wish that I had more legal skills. I think that would have made a big difference for me in my understanding of how markets work. But I think that having coding skills is absolutely essential, and understanding basic programming. And Excel spreadsheets are a blunt version of that. But if you can actually spin up the same thing in Python or Java, you're just able to do so many things. So I think that is something that I would really encourage young people to do. And the other thing is to do something. This is another thing Nat and I were talking about. Do something unusual. There's people think, I'll just get my job in the big multinational and this tried and tested path. But I think that doing things that are unusual, that are going to give you depth and breadth of experience, will provide you a foundation that you can call upon, that are going to allow you to innovate. And you're not going to get those skills just being in a cookie cutter environment. So I think that, perhaps they might not be the most well-paid jobs, but they provide you with a completely different dimension of experiences. And I think that you should prioritise those things in your career if you really want to be entrepreneurial.
Well, this is to this era where we are now. We feel that we need to learn other things that we studied before. So I wish I could be having more financial background. You wish to have legal background. I wish to have your background to my back. So this is the era we want to have a little bit of that, just to make one person and can move on efficiently and effectively in society today.
May I ask another question while we are waiting for them? From the investor point of view, if I'm the investor and you're my investor advisor, I would like to invest in this business, but I would like to know the future. What are the risks of this business?
You mean as in setting up your own business or for Power Ledger?
Yeah, for Power Ledger, like competitors or government regulations that would be narrowed down.
I think that, there's all of that. There are other players out there. There are big companies that are trying to do some things. They're generally trying to boil the ocean, I would say. We're trying to be more agile and do the demonstration projects and at scale. And I think that there's different ways of entering a market that we believe that presents a lot of opportunity and try and form partnerships with the players in those markets where we can have the biggest opportunity to commercialise the technology. They're also finding the right countries that are willing to innovate and either do sandboxes of a reasonable scale, as is the case in Thailand, and then also adapt the regulation. So I think that they're if you go back and look at, say, around 93, 94 in the US, when they changed the regulations and anyone that had a modem could set up and become an ISP. In about 3 or 4 years, thousands of these companies popped up. Then there was the kind of reformation of the market, lots of buyouts, and now there's 4 or 5 big players. And I think a similar thing could happen with electricity as the network is opened up and anyone can connect and create these marketplaces. And I think over the next sort of 3 to 5 years, the players will get scale, and that'll be a function of megawatts and users on the platforms. And there'll be buyouts, and you'll end up with these big conglomerates, and the Googles and Amazons of tomorrow. And I really believe Thailand is ground zero for where this is going to happen.
Just over at the back of the room, please. Identify yourself, please.
My name is Ryan. I'm from Hong Kong, but currently living in Chiang Mai. And I've got a question, and then Calista here also has a question. So I wanted to ask, how much of your challenge would you say is solving technical problems, and how much is marketing and forging key partnerships?
Well, they're one and the same thing. If you have a technical problem, you have a commercial problem. So I think you need to sometimes get involved in the detail to understand actually, what the marketing problem or the commercial problem is. So I think that they're intimately related to each other. And as an entrepreneur and you're scaling, you do have to get other people involved to do things, but you've got to have enough of an understanding of where are the risks and when do you need to dive down to get into the detail to resolve technical issue that has become a commercial problem. So I think it's about also, as a scale, hiring the right people in your business that you can trust that are going to have that owner mindset, and that they really are systems thinkers and shapers. So shapers are people that that are really understanding like a relational database of this, the whole ecosystem, and want to take responsibility for that and really drive an outcome. So that's bringing people together to make projects, and then managing those projects to deal with put out fires before they become big, and keep the project alive and deliver scale. So I think that you need all of those things.
All right, so now it's going to be my turn. Do you have any questions? Okay. Hi, Dr. Green. My name is Calista. I can't say where I'm from since I grew up internationally, but I'm interested because this is my first time hearing about Power Ledger, and I feel, based on what I'm getting, it seems to be kind of like an Airbnb for energy. In a way, you're allowing people to actually transact anything and also building a sharing economy within a specific community. And I think that's very empowering. However, coming from my legal background, I'm curious, at some point you're going to be butting heads with the big energy companies of the world, and there may be some legal, political, socioeconomic ramifications in approaching these companies. And I was just wondering how you see that developing and what are the challenges in approaching that. I feel that once it comes to a tipping point where enough of us actually get on board with renewable sources of energy and we start sharing it like that, it's going to be a real wave of change. And I'm wondering how that will change the energy power play grid, as it were, on that level. Thank you.
Thanks for your question. So I did my PhD in electricity market disruption, and specifically looking at disruptive innovation theory. And Clayton Christensen from Harvard University kind of coined this term, and he basically saw that incumbent players, when they're being disrupted, will do one or a combination of three things. They'll either fight, they'll flight, or they'll innovate. And they might fight and innovate at the same time. You can see this across different sectors that have undergone a disruption of some kind. So in the case of electricity, incumbent utilities might fight against renewables, but then start selling solar to their customers at the same time. Flight means that they either pretend nothing's happening or they start exiting the market and divesting. And we're starting to see divestment occur where big utilities are selling off their fossil fuel assets because they don't see a future in them, or the risks associated with the business are outweighing the returns. So you might actually see a combination of fighting and innovating might be that they start cannibalising their own market, because if they don't do that, others are going to cannibalise it, or they might have non-cannibalistic activity. So you might have a utility that operates in a city but is starting to do standalone power stations in remote communities and sort of acquire new bits of the market. So I think that all that stuff's going on in electricity markets right now. But if you look at examples of incumbents that have been disrupted, and maybe they see the changes coming, but they don't understand what are the commercial models or the technologies that are going to underpin that deployment. And a case in point is Kodak. So Kodak actually invented the technology associated with digital cameras, and they had hundreds of patents filed. But they thought they were going to get a piece of the action of every photograph that was taken, which is the business model for print photographs. They didn't understand that the business model for digital cameras was about ancillary services, print books, and different ways of packaging up photos online. So they actually filed for bankruptcy around 2011. So it's not just about knowing that the technology that's going to change the future, but it's understanding what are the commercial models and the business models that are going to underpin their deployment. And I think what's happening in the market right now globally is a lot of exploration. So projects that are figuring out where is the biggest and easiest opportunity to scale. And that'll happen whether the big utilities fight it or not. It's just a matter of whether they get a piece of the action or not.
So we have time for one more question, and I'm going to ask it. So we've seen how blockchain can be used as a way to tackle very urgent problems, like the need to disperse renewable energy. And we had the president of the Chiang Mai Chamber of Commerce earlier this morning, who was speaking about using blockchain technologies as a way to intervene on the smog issue in the north, which we're all very familiar with, unfortunately. So how can this technology be utilized by smaller nonprofits or organizations that are working on urgent issues such as this that don't have the capacity of a multinational company or a government institution or a university? How can an organization like Warm Heart, for example, that is working on this issue in the north, take advantage of technology like this?
Well, I think we were talking about this issue at dinner last night, and that it's not an easy fix. But in terms of moving from perhaps combustion of fossil fuels or diesel generators to, distributed solar and storage, small scale, using our platform with the potential to have third parties fund those projects, and then the users pay their electricity to the owner of the asset. And the hope is that there'll be developers in these markets that will deploy these assets and use the funding model to syndicate ownership to the market. And so it's about providing easy ways that these projects can be financed and encourage more of them to be installed. So I think it's about connecting the technology to investor markets and providing solutions. So I think there will be aggregators in these markets, and there needs to be, especially as we're establishing it. But the bigger problem about air quality and actually getting the right behaviour change, well, I mean, the idea of the clean development mechanism was to do that, and it certainly went a long way to change many practices. I understand in Thailand, the market's saturated with methane capture projects and dealing with animal husbandry in a more efficient fashion. But I think the next stage of growth is around tackling the more wicked problems, the less low-hanging fruit. And I don't know what the answer to it is, but I feel like having solved the more easy problems now, there's to unlock the potential for people to focus their time and efforts on that.